Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Pup and Away podcast. My name is Steph. You may know me as Steph the Pro Dog Mom. I'm a certified dog trainer, canine behaviorist, canine nutritionist, and the very proud owner of Pup and Away in San Antonio, Texas, where we specialize in pet care with a behavioral edge. Today, I am joined by Adam Spencer. Adam is the founder and president of Furlanthropy, an innovative nonprofit charity created to help pet parents raise funds for veterinary expenses, from emergency surgeries to long-term treatment and recovery, and actually so much more. Once you hear the episode, you'll know all of the different things that you can raise money for. With over 20 years of experience as a certified fundraising executive, Adam has raised millions of dollars for causes close to the heart. Furlanthropy was inspired by the rescue of his dog, Hazelnut, a moment that transformed Adam's life and motivated his professional mission toward animal welfare. Adam is a passionate advocate for ethical giving, transparency in fundraising, and innovative solutions that keep pets with the people who love them. He lives in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia with his wife Erica, their 5 children, and 2 rescue dogs, enjoying pickleball, e-bike rides, that's cool, and imported lobster rolls. Connect with Adam on the Furlanthropy website and their social medias, which we will be dropping in the show notes. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Like I said, I am here today with Adam Spencer, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was like, wait, I don't have that note in front of me. Adam Spencer, who is the founder, right, of Furlanthropy. Now, Adam, this is not your first, trial. This isn't the first little endeavor that you've had with fundraising. You actually have a background in fundraising and actually a certification in fundraising. Is that true?
Well, I'm not sure I would call it a vacation. I think all of us that are in the philanthropic world professionally is just part of who we are. So we're always looking for opportunities to help our local community and things that we're passionate about. I've been blessed with the past 20 years to serve all kinds of worthy charities and causes and continue to do that today. And so this is something that was born out of a need that I saw in the industry and also a very personal story as well. But thank you again, Stephanie, for having me today. I just really appreciate your kindness and invitation.
Yeah, of course. It's a great topic of conversation. And it's actually funny because, for the listeners, Adam and I have kind of been going back and forth as far as scheduling goes. And so I've heard of Furlanthropy. Well, I think it's been like 2 months. I think we originally started trying to get together even before the new year. And just literally this past weekend, one of my friends walks in, and she's also a client, but her and her boyfriend were out. They went to Fredericksburg, Texas, which is pretty close to San Antonio. So just a little weekend getaway. And the boyfriend left his dog with his sister, I believe, and there was an accident. The dog somehow got out the front door and got hit by a car.
Oh, no.
And so she, came in, of course, she's telling us the story. She's crying, she's upset. And she's like, I think I'm going to start a GoFundMe. And I'm like, actually, I think you should look into Furlanthropy. So like you said, Furlanthropy kind of comes from a special place in your heart. And I think that very special place has a name named Hazelnut.
Ma'am,
Can
yes,
you
ma'am.
tell us a little bit about Hazelnut?
Sure. Well, first I want to say to your friend, if she's listening, I did get her email and I replied back, and so was touched to be in that situation to help. It always grieves our hearts, but we try to be responsive very quickly to needs. And we understand when a pet parent goes through a crisis like that, there's so many thoughts and trying to navigate that system, but we want to get help in your hands as quick as we can. So delighted to be able to help there, and thank you for recommending Furlanthropy.
And it's really cool that you are part of the system.
Yeah. I don't always, we have a wonderful team of volunteers and staff, but I try to jump in when I can and just to provide that extra touch of care and compassion, and because I understand the weight of that. And that weight is honestly something that I didn't always understand. And this is really the hybrid of where this came from. Some of your listeners might not be happy with me, but this has a happy ending, I promise. I had a dog when I was a kid. That was a really long time ago. Sterling was his name, and loved him. But something happened. I became a crusty old man. I don't know, Stephanie. Over the years, I just became afraid of dogs. And I had a cat, and Kobe, 20 some years. I loved Kobe. Not that I'm a cat person either, but we just bonded, and sadly, Kobe went to the Rainbow Bridge, and it's about 6 years ago. And my wife and I met and married, and her dog went to the Rainbow Bridge as well. And being a newlywed, she asked me one day, she said, honey, I think we need to get a dog. And of course, I said, absolutely not. But, being a newlywed, I wanted to make sure, to make my wife happy. So I said, honey, we'll go just to look. That was all my intent, just to look. So we go down to the local Humane Society here in Virginia. And my impression as I walked through past these cages, it was really intense, really loud, which made me even less likely to adopt a dog. They were just excited, But if you're not a dog person, you're kind of like maybe intimidates you a little bit. So we go through all the hallways and past all these dogs, and we leave, and I'm the last one. I follow my wife and daughters, and I get to the last cage in a row. And I just caught my eye in the corner. I see this little lump of fur, and I'm like, how about that one? I'll appease my wife and kids by looking at that one. Like, how harmful could she be? She's the only one that's like not, not making a noise or anything. So I'm like, hey, we'll take a look at that one. Well, there was a waiting list. And so by the time we got to see her, we had to look through this little glass. And true story, the lady that's in there trying to bond with Hazelnut, as we affectionately named her, she kept coming over to us instead. And my wife said, honey, I think that's a sign. And I'm like, no. She probably just thinks we have treats or whatever. So fast forward to the Humane Society closes for the day. And hey, Mr. Spencer, you know what? We'll put you on the list, but there's a waiting list, which I'm thinking, this is great. Now I'm off the hook, right? I don't have to worry about it. And to this day, I've never told my wife and daughters this. But over the weekend, there were moments where Hazelnut, she just kind of came top of mind, and I would dismiss it. But I'd be lying today if I said there wasn't probably a little bit of me that was a little bit maybe excited. But I would never admit that. And I'm still like, no, I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. And at one point, my wife says, honey, we always pray about everything in our family. You really should pray about this. Talk about pressure, right? So I say a little flippant prayer. God, if it's meant to be, And so Monday morning, I get a phone call. All right, she's all yours. Like, what? There must be some mistake. Like, there's a whole list of people, right? Be careful what you pray for, right? So I get down there, and sure enough, I walk in and like, hey, Mr. Spencer, she's all yours. And so we do some paperwork, and I'm still thinking of like excuses to get out of it. And she says these other magic words: Hazelnut is half price. Like, how do you say no to a half price dog, right? My wife, she knows I'm OCD about coupons, so she's like, honey, how do you say no to that? So here I am. There's this very awkward scene where they're carrying this half-price dog, and they hand it to me. And Stephanie's kind of like if you've never held a baby before. That's literally what it felt like. And Hazelnut's kind of looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and we're like, what are we doing here? And this is terrible. But I'm walking out to the car because she's too frail to walk on her own. So I'm carrying her, and I'm literally saying, this is how crusty I was. I'm saying out loud, I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. And people around me are looking at this guy like, well, then why are you walking out with a dog, right? I'm like, I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. And Stephanie, then it happened. As God is my witness, I look down and I see her cute little eyes. So I get emotional, but I just said, I love you, and I'm going to take care of you. And I kissed her head. And in that moment, she just literally changed my heart. And my wife said, did you just kiss the dog? Did you just tell the dog you loved? I'm like, what just happened here? Like, literally in an instant, it's like our eyes connected, and she spoke right to my heart.
Yeah,
I've never felt that ever before. Yeah. And literally in that moment, Hazelnut changed my heart. Love dogs. In fact, we've rescued another dog. And since we've started Furlanthropy, and I can tell you a little bit more about that. But yeah, that's crazy. Like, literally, the guy who I used to make fun of people. This is how crusty I was. I'd make fun of people like me, buying outfits for their dog or riding with the dog in their lap, and stuff like that. But that's just the power that pets have.
Yeah. Especially when you find your soulmate. I have 2 dogs and I love them both dearly, but Sully is like my soulmate. And I've always been a dog person. So I'm crusty in other ways, like as far as like maybe like my business and things go. But as far as being a pet parent, always been that. But when I was looking for a dog, I went to shelter after shelter. I got to get a rescue. I got to do this. And I would see all these dogs and just did not feel right. But the moment that I met Sully, that just like literally the first words out of my mouth were, "He's perfect." Because you just know,
Yep.
when you found your little soulmate, your little dude, or little female, little lady. So how old is Hazelnut now?
So Hazelnut, we think she was around 2 years old when we got her.
Okay.
She's, let's see, about 5 years old now. And
Okay.
when we got her, she was really frail. She's now gained about 60 pounds, which Stephanie, we probably have to have another conversation after this about her nutrition. She's a little bit of a celebrity, so we're getting dog treats sent to us and all
I
those good
bet.
things. So, she's so happy. She's the sweetest dog in the world. I mean, just happiest dog. And I just love the affection that I receive from her. And it's something that unless you experience that, you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
But part of her story is her original family had to forfeit her because they couldn't afford her life-saving care.
Mm.
Thankfully, the veterinarian in this case provided for her, took care of her, nursed her back to health, and then donated her to the Humane Society to be adopted. And we know that 2/3 of dogs in America that are in that situation, 2/3 are euthanized. So
Yeah.
she was really fortunate. I believe God had a greater plan for her, which is why she's here today. Not just to rescue my heart, but to rescue pets across the country. And so what happened is, being in the fundraising world, professionally, when I learned that her family had to forfeit her, I thought that's crazy. Because of
Yeah.
finances, a family was torn apart, and just seeing the blessing that she is, that a family missed out on that because of finances. So I thought
Yeah.
surely there's a program out there, and of course we've all heard of GoFundMe, and actually
Mhm.
GoFundMe is one of more than 2,000 platforms like GoFundMe. There's
Wow.
Puddly and Plumfield, and every day I see new ones spring up, and they're all
Okay.
for-profit owned. And so there was at the time nothing out there like Furlanthropy. And so I just saw the need, and we took us about 2 years to get it off the ground.
Okay. Yeah, Hazelnut actually has a very similar story with how I got my other kid, Arishi. She was a puppy, and I think her original people, well, number one, they adopted her and weaned her from mom super early, and that led her to be sick. The people thought she had parvo and were like, yeah, we can't pay for that. Gave her up to the rescue. The rescue, nursed her back to health. Luckily, it was not parvo. It was just, hey, you got weaned from mom really freaking early. And that's how I ended up with Rishi. And that's how she was, in the foster system of dogs and things like that. So it's not a uncommon story, unfortunately. And we all hope to God that we never have to, fork out a ton of money for something, an emergency like this, but it happens. And, Americans don't have a whole lot of savings sometimes. So tell us a little bit more about some of the unique qualities of philanthropy versus some of these other bigger. I think one big huge thing that you just mentioned is they're for profit, you guys are not. So kind of tell us a little bit more about when a pet parent is like thinking, oh my gosh, I need to fundraise money, why they should consider something like philanthropy.
Well, it's a great question. As you say, they're for
Loaded question.
profit. What's that?
It's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, but it's really important that the listeners see the differences here. As you say, they're for profit, and not that in of itself is a bad thing. I'm not suggesting that they don't do good work on these platforms, but we're motivated by our mission. We're not motivated by profits. I don't get paid anything. We run a lean virtual. Our team is across the country virtually, so we really streamline our expenses to make sure every dollar is going to our mission. And so I think that's important to know, the why behind what we do. And then I'll answer the question by saying, if you are giving to a for-profit agency like GoFundMe, even though it's a charitable cause, when you give to that, you don't receive a tax deduction, and you're limited to what you can give. So right now, if your friend does a GoFundMe, the only way you can give to it is essentially from your bank account. whether it's Cash App or Venmo or a check or debit card, it's coming out of your bank account, right? I guess you do have the option if you wanted to use a credit card, but most people don't go into debt to give to charity, right? So it's just coming out of a bank account. Well, we know that in America, 98% of the wealth, or I would just say the means in America, 98% is held outside of people's bank accounts.
Right.
And two of those big buckets are stock gifts, and what we call donor advised funds. And I know this is going to get a little technical, but this will really, really blow your mind. If you're ever in a situation, I wish I was in a situation where my accountant would say, Adam, you've made too much money this year, and we need you to give to charity. So imagine your accountant says, Stephanie, you know what? You got to donate some money, or you're going to get hammered come tax time. And you're like, well, I just don't like charity, which we know is not true. But let's just say, I don't like charity. I don't know who to give to. Well, your accountant might say, you know what? We'll just take your charitable gifts and we'll put it in what we call a donor advised fund. And so they take that money and they put it there, and you get the immediate tax deduction. And the money just sits there. The next year, same thing. Stephanie, you've made too much money. We need you to put money in this. And it just sits there and it collects interest. Well, what's happened over time is that there are now trillions of dollars, literally trillions with a T, sitting in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of donor advised funds. They're just sitting there. That could do a lot of good. But there's currently no law saying that when you have to actually distribute those funds. But here's the distinction. Let's just say your grandparent, someone who's listening, their grandparent has a donor advised fund, and you've done a fundraiser through GoFundMe for your pet. And your grandma says, I really want to help. Unfortunately, grandma can't take money out. You can't take money out of a donor advised fund unless it goes to a registered 501c3 charity. So you can't give any of that money to a GoFundMe, for example. However, since Furlanthropy, since we're a registered 501c3 nonprofit, if you look at any of our crowdfunding fundraisers, there's a button, literally a click of a button, and you can donate from the donor advised fund, or you can donate from your stock gift, which is amazing, right? So now, the simple comparison, if you create a GoFundMe or any of the other for-profit companies out there, you're asking from 2% of the wealth of America. But if you create a philanthropy fundraiser, you're asking from the whole pie. You're asking from 100%, which is pretty amazing. And I'll follow up with one more interesting question, because I know it may seem kind of high-level thoughts, and the person who says, well, I don't have any friends with stock gifts, or I don't have any friends with donor advised funds. Here's the interesting thing. Up until this year, an average of less than 20% of Americans itemized on their taxes. So, for example, if you give to Furlanthropy, we're going to send you a gift receipt. And so you think, well, I really don't need those gift receipts because I don't itemize. I just take the standard deduction. Well, a new law was just passed starting January 2026 that every individual, when you file your taxes, you can deduct, whether you itemize or not, you can deduct up to $1,000 off of your taxes from charitable gifts. And if you're a married couple, you can deduct up to $2,000. So, for example, if you gave today to your friend's pet, we mentioned earlier, if you gave $100, you can deduct that from your taxes. Isn't that wild? So now that little tax piece now affects every single tax-paying American, not just the 20%.
Yeah, and it incentivizes people to donate, right? Because not only am I helping out a friend or, this animal, the story that I just read about, but also I see, a reward at the end of the year with those tax deductions.
Yeah, why not do something that's going to benefit you financially as well and make it easier for you to give, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And in a couple of weeks, we're adding cryptocurrency, so you'll be able to push a button. If you have crypto, people can donate that way as well. Okay. And there's another button coming where your employer can match the gift. So we're really trying to broaden not just what types to give, but how you can give as well, and just make it a lot more easier.
So with Furlanthropy being a non-profit or not-for-profit organization, unlike some of the other ones that you mentioned, like GoFundMe takes a really big chunk out of the donations to cover, I guess, their work, their expenses and things like that. So what does that look like from the side of you guys for Furlanthropy?
Sure. Well, when a donor goes to our website and you click the button to make a gift, it will automatically default to 8% to cover fees. But all you
Okay.
have to do is click on that and you can zero it out if you want. And so
Oh, okay.
you don't have to pay that fee at all. What we do ask of every pet parent when you create your fundraiser to add 10% to your goal. And so
Mm,
that way, that 10% will go towards other fundraisers that are maybe less successful. Kind of like how I got my dog half price because the cute puppy that was next to it was like, $1,000 and mine was like $45, right? So,
yeah.
kind of similar. So it's kind of cool because you get to you realize that, wow, you know what? Not only is my pet getting help, but my pet's need is inspiring help for other pets as well, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. So
Absolutely. And also, like, a little bit of a pay it forward in the sense that you were able to take as much of that, all the amounts that was actually donated to you, that you can give a little bit back to the organization to help other people. So it might not be feeding directly into, but are there any expenses that you guys incur from this, or is it truly going to just other fundraisers as well?
well, what we ask is when someone makes a donation to a fundraiser or to philanthropy directly to support our mission, 90 cents goes directly to a mission, and 10% is what we glean for operations. And so
Okay.
we have a very small operating budget. As I say, I don't get paid. We're motivated by our mission, not by making money. Yeah, so it's a different. I don't want to say anything negative about this other companies because I don't want to get sued, but we're just in this space for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. There are also some really interesting things that you guys do as far as like verifying and making sure that like nothing is fraudulent, which I did not think about whenever I've donated to other places. So that kind of, gave me some food for thought there as well. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
sure. Yeah. So when I started Furlanthropy, the idea first came to mind during that season. This is about 4.5 years ago. There's a lot of talk in the media about at the time a politician who created a GoFundMe for a pet of a military veteran who had a service animal, and they needed $30,000. And this individual said, I have a charity that helps pets, and I'm going to do a GoFundMe and I'm going to help you. Well, the charity wasn't real. And when the $30,000 was raised, the person stole the money. The pet parent never got the money, and the dog died.
Oh
And
my
all
gosh.
of those donors who gave got ripped off. And I
Oh my
thought,
gosh.
that's just terrible because all it would take is number one, about 30 seconds on the IRS website, and you can see if the charity is real or not. But then also, it just stinks that fraud and scams are happening all the time in crowdfunding. And this is before, honestly, AI. Just think about what AI has done just in the past couple of years. In the past year, it's amazing. It's so easy for someone to fake an image of a pet, an image of a person, saying, "I have a
Yeah.
pet. Will you help me?" And I remember on one platform, I won't say their name, but a for-profit platform, I had a picture of a dog, and it's like, "My name is Sparky. I'm having surgery this week. I'm scared. Will you help me?" It's like $11,000 raised. But I'm like, but there's nothing there. Like, how do you even know Sparky's real? And what happens if the dog is real, but maybe the dog passes away and the pet parent gets the money and they're like, screw it, I'm not going to pay my vet bill. I'm going to go on vacation instead. Like, how do you know as a donor that your money is actually going where it's supposed to go? So one reason why our fundraisers are successful is because donors who don't even know you, but they just care about pets. I talked to a gentleman yesterday. He just goes on our website at night, he grabs a beer, he just clicks on there. Yep, here's $50. Here's $50. He doesn't know the
Wow.
people, but he just loves that he knows without a shadow of a doubt that we've verified every single pet is real, every expense is real. And then one of the biggest distinction is when the money comes in, instead of it going to that pet parent, we send it directly to the veterinarian. And so
Oh, okay.
again, from a donor perspective, oh my goodness, I can give to this GoFundMe or this for-profit platform over here and hope, fingers crossed, that it's real, or I can give to this philanthropy fundraiser where I know it's real. I know my gift is going where it's supposed to go, and I get a charitable tax deduction, and there's more ways for me to give. And so it's a no-brainer. And our veterinarians love it because sometimes veterinarians, they'll give themselves. You know what I mean? Because they know, or they're more apt to promote your personal fundraiser if they know that the money's coming to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a win-win all the way around.
That's interesting. How long does it take for you guys to go through that verification process?
Well, what we do is our process is we wait until there's some funds that are raised, and then we reach out to the veterinarian right away and confirm that. Our goal is to distribute funds every single Friday. And so
Okay.
if it's an emergency situation, the turnaround can be much quicker. But at minimum, we don't wait months. I heard of a agency up in Washington D.C. who used um, a for-profit agency, a very popular one. They raised $60,000, and that was 2 months ago. They still haven't seen the money. So
Oh,
we want to make sure that every week money is getting out, that's been fundraised, is getting right to the veterinarian, right to the location, wherever that expense is at. Maybe it's one of your clients who needs help with her pet, with behavior training, and we'll send it to you, wherever that expense is located. And so um, part of that turnaround time is if the pet parent has provided all the information that we need. One of the other challenges, but also rewards with the philanthropy platform benefits, is that we can reimburse past expenses as well. Because we understand that, man, when you're in this journey, this continuum of care for your pet, it might be thousands of dollars just for your pet to get examined, just to find out
yeah.
what's wrong with your pet. And then, oh my goodness, now it's another $1,000 for the procedure, and then another sum of money for follow-up care. Well, that can be overwhelming. And if you've already, as a pet parent, maxed out your availability for credit or whatever, and you're already carrying this burden financially, if we can help you fundraise and release that burden from you, that debt, now you're more likely to continue care for your pet, right? So if you're in that situation, and it could be weeks ago, but you have this debt, go ahead and start a philanthropy fundraiser. We're still going to call the veterinarian, and we're still going to verify, and we're still going to send the funds to the veterinarian, and then they will reimburse you. So we're still honoring our commitment to our donors of how we distribute and verify. But again, it's helping you release you from that burden.
Gotcha. I hope you haven't experienced this yet, so I'm hoping this is more of a hypothetical than, hey, this already happened. But what would happen if a campaign was already started, some funds were already, donated, then we go through the verification process, and then you realize, oh, this is actually not a legit campaign.
Sure.
What would happen to the funds in that situation that were already raised?
Well, our disclaimer is, all funds, when you donate, you're donating to philanthropy. When you get the
Okay.
gift receipt, it doesn't come from Stephanie Garza or Adam Spencer. It comes from Furlanthropy. So at the end of the day, we have discretion where to use those funds. Obviously, we want those funds to go where the donor intends them to go. That's the
Mhm.
ethical thing to do. And I'll say this too on the side, that I'm a certified fundraising executive, a CFRE, so I'm bound by code of ethics. And you, as a donor, have what's called a donor bill of rights when you give to a nonprofit. But none of that exists for a for-profit. So,
Okay.
so it's a whole different ballgame. But anyway, so just ethically wise, we're going to apply your gift as a donor where your heart's desire is. But here's another example that's come up sadly, where individuals have raised a couple $1,000s for their pending surgery for their pet, but then sadly the pet passes away before they raised enough money or before the veterinarian did the surgery. So now what do you do, right? We had a
Yeah.
situation where they raised $3,000 and the pet passed away before surgery. So they had about $600 in bereavement expenses. And so we were able to apply those funds to cover that need. So we just pivoted that. But then the other $2,400 went to help other pets, which made the pet parent feel great because, like, you know what? It's sad I lost my pet, but at least through this journey with my pet, other pets are being helped, so it's not a complete loss. And so that's what we tell people, that at the end of the day, you're donating to philanthropy, but we're going to do everything possible to honor your gift intent.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I looked through the website, and every single one of these campaigns is animal related, correct? Like it has to be an animal related campaign to be up on philanthropy.
Any animal related cause. Yep. So we had, it's a great organization called NAMVI. I'll give them a shout out. It stands for Not One More Veterinarian. And their focus is they're one of our first partners in this journey. Their focus is on providing mental health resources for veterinary professionals. Sadly, I had no idea when I started philanthropy that one of the highest suicide rates is among veterinary professionals. And that broke my heart, especially having a daughter who wants to be a veterinarian. And when I learned that, I thought, because what a powerful opportunity we have to help fill that gap, so that not only do the pet parents not to have to carry that financial burden, but the veterinarians don't have to as well. So if you're a veterinarian listening today and you have a pet parent, or maybe even just someone who dropped off a pet, go ahead and start a philanthropy fundraiser. And whatever is not covered, at minimum, you as a veterinarian can donate to your own fundraiser, because you're going to get that money back and a charitable write-off. So it's a win-win, right? Yeah. So financially, you're not carrying that burden. So anyway, two ladies up in New York State did a philanthropy fundraiser and raised over $5,000 for this charity called Nambi. And so any animal-related cause, it can be equestrian. You can raise money for your favorite local zoo, your local humane society. But we have a gentleman who wants to start a philanthropy fundraiser to raise bulletproof vests for canine dogs, police dogs. So the opportunities are really much vast. Obviously, our number one client right now, demographic, is pet parents and veterinarians.
Right. And you mentioned it doesn't have to be an emergency. Someone who is interested in, getting some behavioral training for their dog, that's also something that can be up on the platform as well.
It is. We are selective in that if someone says, "Hey, my dog hasn't been to the spa in 3 weeks," she needs her. Not going to be able to do that. But I see such a huge need. One of our best friends was just here the other day talking about their precious dog that bit her in the hand, and it scared her. And she said, I'm gonna have to get rid of this dog. I don't want to get rid of her. I love her, but what do I do?" And so instead, she's investing in getting professional training, which I'm guessing is in your field of expertise. And what an awesome thing to be able to raise funds so that to be able to afford the necessary training, so that and it's not what's wrong with this dog. It's more what happened to her, and how can we help that pet to be happy and safe in this home, and everybody be safe, and keep that family together, rather than the alternative.
Absolutely. Some other things that I saw, like as I was perusing through all the different campaigns, rescue organizations can also put together something there as well as a campaign. Maybe they're campaigning for, maybe their foster dog has a medical expense, or just they need food to cover, but rescue organizations can also jump in here as well, correct?
Absolutely. And we've had some businesses that have created fundraisers to raise for disaster relief. And fundraisers for emergency kits. So when, for example, the American Red Cross, we just donated some funds to the local American Red Cross. When they show up to a home fire, the Red Cross gives financial assistance to the family, but oftentimes there's nothing for the pets. And so philanthropy, through our generous donors, actually paid for several hundred emergency disaster relief kits to provide cats and dogs when they show up to a family. So there's all kinds of unique ways. I also encourage people, if you've just lost a pet, sadly, in lieu of flowers, why not do a fundraiser for philanthropy? Invite people to give, or maybe in celebration of a birthday, use philanthropy. And again, you can raise money for philanthropy, or you can raise money for your favorite animal-related charity.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so beautiful. I think I didn't realize that there was something missing in that space, but now my eyes are open to all the things that are missing in the crowdfunding donation platform industry, and that you have an answer for them all.
Well, we're trying to make a difference where we can. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are there other new things that are coming up with philanthropy besides that crypto option? Are there any other fun things you have waiting in the wings?
Well, Stephanie, I can't tell you all of our secrets. You'll have to have me back in a couple months. We do have something really amazing in the works, but I'm not at liberty to share it yet. But yeah, stay with us. I will say we've partnered with an awesome, if there's any pet lovers who love coffee, check out our philanthropy website, and you can buy some Furtastic coffee, which is pretty cool. Furtastic coffee, and proceeds from every single bag of coffee you buy goes to help philanthropy. So it's just one kind of fun way that you can support us. If you like premium fresh coffee, check out Furtastic coffee.
Yeah, that's what I got in this guy right here. Some coffee.
Oh, I'm gonna send you some. I'm gonna send you some free coffee.
Oh, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anything else about philanthropy that we have not covered yet? You talked about how it's not for profit, 100% or almost 100, everything that's raised is going to either help the small operations that you guys are doing or supporting the person who's doing the donation or other donations. We talked about how you guys have a very great way of verifying not only the campaign, but also where the money is going out to, and how you don't have to raise all the funds before you start seeing those, those donations. And I think the biggest one for anyone who's donating is anything is tax deductible as well. But are there any other little things that we haven't covered yet about philanthropy?
Sure. Well, one of the things that makes us really unique and really special, in addition to proactively protecting donors and giving donors more ways to give and more types of gifts, and giving the confidence that the funds are going where they're supposed to go, and all of those things. One of the things that makes us really special is when you go through the process, and it's very user-friendly, click on our website, furlanthropy.org, click on Create a Campaign. You'll upload some basic information about where your veterinarian or where the location of the expenses is located. And then you'll click on some basic things, about your pet and a video you can add and all kinds of different features. But there'll be a spot where you can click a button and simultaneously create a Facebook fundraiser, a Facebook philanthropy fundraiser. Now, this is different than if you were to just log on to Facebook on your own and create a fundraiser.
Okay.
You have to do it through our website. And that's what makes it tax deductible.
Okay.
And so literally you'll have two fundraisers for your pet or your cause that are related, that live simultaneously side by side. So anyone who gives to your philanthropy Facebook fundraiser, that gift will show up on our website where your philanthropy fundraiser lives.
Okay.
And so what's beautiful about that is it just gives you this whole big, robust platform to be able to share updates, send invites, invite people to your philanthropy fundraiser Facebook page, invite them to like it, invite them to fundraise on your behalf. You can send it through Messenger. And so that's one reason why there's such success in our platform, because you have two different entities working at the same time for your fundraiser.
The Facebook fundraisers, from my understanding, I haven't done one myself, but I talked to a lot of rescue organizations, and I think they say that Facebook takes about like 18% of anything that's raised in those. Do we still see the 18% deduction, or does going the philanthropy route kind of do something there?
Yeah, what will happen is if someone sees your fundraiser on Facebook, they'll click on to give, and it'll take them to the same checkout that you would, transaction page that you would if you're on our website. And so it's that same amount. It defaults to 8%. And again, that just helps us cover our credit card processing fees. It helps us to exist, to have a robust platform like this. But you can always zero that out. And we wanted to give that option to donors because, if you're given $100, for someone, might say, what, $8, that might turn them off from wanting to give, that 8%. So it gives them an option to zero that out. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to give and remove as many barriers as possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's very good to know.
I would just encourage everyone, that not every fundraiser raises 100%, but boy, you know what? If the bill's $5,000 and you raise $2,500, that's incredible. That's $2,500 that you didn't have before. I would also encourage friends that are watching today that love pets. One of the things that makes philanthropy unique is, other than these other for-profit companies, is that we actually contribute to your fundraisers when we're able to. So we have generous supporters who say, you know what, I just care about pets. I know what you're doing is good and it's real and it's verified. So here's a stock gift, or here's $10,000, here's $500, here's $50, and you just use this where needed most. And so I guarantee GoFundMe, again, they do great work, but I guarantee these for-profit companies aren't saying, oh, you know what, Stephanie, you're short on let me kick in some of my profits, right? They're not doing that, but we're in this from a different perspective, right? We're in this to move our mission forward of preventing the suffering of pets. And so again, there's that option. There's one more reason to choose philanthropy over these other platforms. But I would just encourage, if you're somebody who has the means to give, maybe it's $10 a month. Maybe you're sitting on an asset like a vehicle that doesn't run anymore, or a lake house that you don't want, or stocks that you have that you're going to have to pay appreciated gains on. You can donate all those things to philanthropy. We even have some senior saints who have established philanthropy in their will and their estate plans. And so we have a Forever Legacy Society, which is pretty cool. And so there's all kinds of ways that you can invest in this incredible mission and touch the lives of pets. I'm so just tickled to know that in short 2 years that we've been running Furlanthropy across the country, very much organically. Every single state except I think New Mexico is the only one that we haven't had at least one pet helped by Furlanthropy. So
Okay.
yeah, tell others about us. And feel free to reach out if we can answer your questions. Tell your veterinarians about us. And if you know anybody that wants to help support or sponsor or donate, we'd love to have those conversations.
That is beautiful. I will definitely be linking Philanthropy's website to the show notes. So if anyone wants to get a campaign started or learn more about the organization, donate, definitely you can easily go into those show notes and find that. Are you guys also on like social media and things like that?
We do. We have a growing following, so we'd love for you to share us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. Follow us on there. We'd love to connect with you.
That is beautiful. Well, Adam, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for all of the animals, not just the pets, all the animals. I see a tiger in the background back there. So raising things for the zoo is a very interesting thing that you can do there through a really great organization. Thank you for your hard work, for seeing that something different needs to happen in this space, and for making it work.
Well, you're awesome, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And thank you to your listeners for tuning in today. And thank you for all that you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. We'll see you at the next episode. Have a good one. Now, that might be the end of the episode, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on social media. I'd love to connect with you. We have quite a few social media platforms. For nutrition and holistic pet care tips, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Steph the Pro Dog Mom. You can find fun training tips on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Pup Pup and Away SA. If you're in San Antonio and you want to bring your dog to us for boarding, training, socialization, and nutrition, come find us. But if you're not in San Antonio, we do training and nutrition sessions virtually. Yes, they can be just as effective, I promise. Please rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast on whatever platform you listen on. And please, please, please share with a friend. The positive reinforcement of knowing people actually listen to this and find it valuable helps motivate me to keep on recording. We'll see you guys at the next episode.